Okay, so we're gonna start with our wild rice. We have about a cup and a quarter to a cup and a third of the wild rice here with 4 cups of water. We're gonna cook it on about medium for about 20 to 30 minutes. I'll show you what it looks like when it's ready. If you don't have a lid for your pot, just use a plate or some foil. This pot does not have a lid. Well, the lid broke, so I'm just gonna put a plate on top of it first. Okay, while our rice is cooking, we're gonna move on to doing the toppings, cutting everything that's gonna go on top, all the yummy stuff, all the stuff that adds texture, all that good stuff. Let me just wipe that. For safety purposes, we always want to make sure that we have a wet cloth under our cutting board. That way it doesn't move around when we're trying to cut things. It's a lot more solid. And you want to have a sharp knife. I know it's not always possible for everyone to have a sharp knife, but if you go to like a knife store, they can, typically they'll sharpen it for you when you're just shopping around. So you can do that, or if you're in the Ottawa area or elsewhere, you can go to a college that has a culinary program. Typically they sharpen the knives. All right, so make sure your veggies are nice and clean. I'm gonna be starting with cucumbers. Now for poke bowls, you can put anything you want on it. This is just an idea, and after you make your first one, it'll be nice and easy. You'll be able to personalize it. It's really, really simple. So I washed my cucumber. I like to keep the skin on. There's lots of fiber in the skin. So potatoes, carrots, cucumbers, anything with skin, as long as it's edible, I usually just like to wash it and keep that on for dietary health purposes. So I'm cutting these in what we would call either matchsticks or julienne. You can even call them a fine julienne depending on how thin they're cut. And I'm cutting around the seed. You can add that seed if you want, but it's just gonna irritate your stomach. Some people it irritates the stomach, and it's also not the nicest texture. It's just kind of jelly. So I like to cut around the seed. Sometimes there's a little bit in there like this one, but that's okay. It's just this here. It's not typically like the nicest texture. So for the cucumbers, I'm just gonna kind of stack them as much as I can. It doesn't have to be all the exact same pieces like lined up. Just take pieces, stack them, try and get them as evenly like placed as possible, but don't worry about it if you're not. You could even keep them like this if you want to, but I like to have little matchsticks on mine. So we're just gonna cut them lengthwise. It's not gonna be completely even, and that's okay. It'll be mostly even. It'll still be good. It'll still look good. It'll still taste good. I'll give these a bit more of a wash. Now with the carrots, you actually can use your knife to cut them like the same way we did with the cucumbers, or you can use a mandolin, or you can just use a box grater. Today I'm just gonna use a box grater because it's a lot easier, it's a lot quicker. Next, we're gonna do the cabbage. I'm probably only gonna use about a quarter of this cabbage. And then you can cut them how you want. You could dice them fine, or you can use a box grater. You can use a mandolin again, or you could just use your knife. I'm just gonna use my knife. And I like them as fine as possible. It adds a nice crunch without being too, like hard on your teeth and getting stuck in there. So. If you don't like cabbage, you could also use lettuce, that's your call. You can use kale, you can use spinach, anything you like. Next we have some green onions. Again, this is just my preference. You don't have to add this. You could put red onions, white onions, chives, or no onions at all. This is just a guideline. Now I'm getting some mango. You can choose whatever kind of mango you want. This is just what was available at our grocery today, and honestly I kind of prefer these mangoes because they are kind of sour, a little bit tart. They're still sweet, but I find it just adds a little bit of depth to the dish. A little bit of body, you know. Now the reason I peeled my mango is because we're gonna cut it, or well, I'm gonna cut it around the same way as I did the cucumbers. So I'm going to slice it. Don't throw this part away. You can munch on it. You can give it to your baby like I'm about to do. It's really good. Okay, and just as we did with the cucumber, slice lengthwise. You can put as much or as little of any of these things as you want. That's totally your call. You're the one eating it, so you adjust it to your preference. Again, this is just a guideline. Move on to cooking the fish. Make sure your fish is patted dry. Mine was frozen, so I had it running under cold water. If you're gonna defrost it under cold water, make sure that it's in a like a container and the water is constantly running, just to keep it at a cold temperature and to just minimize the buildup of bacteria. Or you can defrost it in the fridge overnight, during the day, up to you. If it's still frozen, you just want to keep it, you want to get it going right away, you can even just cook it in the oven instead of putting it on the frying pan. This is just all the different options you have. So this frying pan has been heating up for a little while now. I can feel it. I think it's good to go, but I'm just going to show you how to check if a stainless steel frying pan is ready. And this tip will save you countless meats and other things stuck to the bottom of the pan, eggs included. I always cook eggs in these frying pans, and I'll show you how you can tell if it's hot enough. Again, the trick is that it's got to be hot enough, and this is how you can tell. So I just literally dip my fingers in here, and if you see on the frying pan, the water turns into little beads. That's what you want. If it steams, it's not ready. But if you see I move my pan and it's smoking, the beads are going all over the place. You just want to make sure that it's like that and it's not, like I said, steaming or evaporating. Now you want to make sure you're using a high smoke oil for this, especially because our pan is super hot. You don't want to use something like canola or vegetable oil because that'll burn right away, or even butter will burn right away. I suggest olive oil, grapeseed oil, or safflower oil. So I'm just going to give it a little drizzle. You can tell that oil is hot. My fish is already seasoned. Again, that pan is nice and hot. It's nice and smoky. I season my fish with salt, pepper, and a little bit of dill. You can use whatever you want. We're gonna place this skin side down. And we're not going to crowd our pan. We'll just do 2 fillets at a time.
Your bird.
That bitch of a bird. So we want to cook this about 2 to 3 minutes per side. We know we'll start seeing it come white on the edges. It's almost time to flip this. It's been about 2 minutes or so. It's been about 2 minutes or so that we've been cooking this. We'll see the bottom should be just about golden, or underneath I should say should be just about golden. You want to get yourself a spatula like this. It just makes it a lot easier. You can get them literally anywhere. I got mine at the local like hardware store. They have like hardware, kitchen, home goods, stuff like that, and it was like maybe $10. See how easy that comes off? Now you can do this in an air fryer if you want to as well. The skin gets really crispy in an air fryer. It's really good. I've done it that way before. Gonna add just a touch more oil. It's almost ready. If you're unsure about how fish looks when it's ready, you can always get yourself a meat thermometer or like an infrared thermometer, that's kind of like those guns, and you want to make sure that it's 145 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to flip it one more time just so it gets a little nicer golden crust underneath there. Probably should have had a lot more fat to have it all golden. Oh well. So our pan is nice and hot. We're gonna place this in the pan, skin side down. We don't want to overcrowd the pan, otherwise a lot of the moisture comes out and it ends up steaming more than like frying or, yeah, frying. I should. One trick that's commonly done if you want to make sure it's really, really even on the skin side is putting another pan on top to really give that skin a nice crisp and a nice chance for the oil to touch all the skin side. Because sometimes with fish, it can kind of fold a little bit or curl. So just doing this helps it to just stay nice and flat, again, so the skin can get nice and golden. The fish I'm working with is walleye. You can do anything you want. You can use shrimp. You can use sardines if you want. You can use salmon. You can even use chicken if you wanted to. I've seen poke bowls with chicken. This is just one of my favorite fish, walleye. It's really light and delicious, and there's very little bones in there. The bones are really easy to take out, so this is also would be really, really good for little kids. Don't have to worry about them choking on the bones. All right, I think it's done. I'm just gonna move this. Crap. So this is how our rice looks when it's finished. You can see it's kind of cracked open. Some of them is all the way open. And if you can't really tell, just take a bite. It'll still be a little bit chewy, or if you want it softer, a little spongier, you can do that as well. It's really preference. There's no right or wrong way for this kind of rice, unless of course it's like rock hard and getting stuck in your teeth. We use about 4 fillets. You could use less, you could use more. Just be aware that fish lasts 2 to 3 days in the fridge. Wild rice will last 4 to 6 days in the fridge. So just keep in mind and be aware when you are making these dishes how long these things last. If you're not sure, a simple Google search will tell you. Portion wise, according to the food triangle, is anywhere usually between a 1/3 cup of rice and 1/2 cup of rice. So I'm going to take a 1/2 cup of this wild rice here and put it in each dish. And this is where you can start getting real creative with it, have fun with it. I'm going to even this out. I'm going to add a nice little layer of cabbage on top. Or if you're using lettuce, you could do that as well. And with veggies, excuse me, go nuts. They suggest about a cup or 2 per serving, depending on your nutritional needs. Get my cucumbers in here. I'm going to throw in some mango. Avocado. You can cut up your avocado however you'd like. I use about 1/4 of an avocado per dish. And as for the fish, you can use a whole fillet. They're about 4 ounces each. So you can do a whole fillet or only half if you want, but I would say do the whole fillet. Now, again, you could top it with whatever you want. I'm going to add my green onions just on top like so. And I know it looks a little bit messy, but I promise it tastes delicious. Going to add some sesame seeds, and that is it. Now from here, you can add your sauces or no sauces. I have some suggestions here. I have some hoisin or oyster sauce. You can use soy sauce. You can use sriracha. One really popular one is sriracha mayo. So I'll just show you how I like to dress mine. I like to put just a little bit of soy sauce. I always use reduced salt. And I like to put a bit of the sriracha mayo. And this one's actually pretty spicy. And if I'm not in the mood for sriracha mayo, then I will just put sriracha on there. And a little bit of this is good. I put just the tiniest little bit. I don't need much of it. And there you have it. Here is your poke bowl. What's fun about this, again, is you can just dress it up, do it however you want to do it. You could customize it. Again, keep in mind that fish only lasts about 2 or 3 days in the fridge, while rice lasts about 6 days in the fridge. You want to make sure everything has come down to room temperature before you store it. Poke bowls, you can eat hot or cold. Prefer cold myself. That's preference. And if you don't feel like having poke bowls more than 2 or 3 days in a row, there's so much you can do with your rice. You could put them into meatballs. You can make a salad with it. You can put them in pancakes. You can make stuffing or dressing with it. Anything you want, really. And or you can even just throw all this in a salad bowl and mix it all together and eat it like that. Just kind of like a poke bowl, just not as pretty. So yeah, there you have it. So time for the taste test, my favorite part. And as I always say when I'm, cooking with everyone is minoisin. That is bomb.